Welcome to the Judgment Free Zone. You've downloaded the Alcohol-Free Marriage Podcast, episode 14 for your 4th of July, 2022.
Now adjust the volume control so that the sound can be heard in all parts of the room.
Recorded live from the cornfields of Central Illinois, you're listening to the Alcohol-Free Marriage Podcast with Matt and Amy. Come and learn and share a journey with two former craft beer enthusiasts who went from daily drinkers to teetotalers and basically never lost their love for their life together.
Hey, a freak show!
Well, hello there, children. Welcome back to the Alcohol-Free Marriage Podcast, your freak show from the cornfields of Central Illinois. I'm Matt, along with the always lovely Coach Amy. How are you, my love?
You're so weird. Why are you doing this now?
I don't know. It's only for the joy of the people watching on the YouTubes. If you want to find Alcohol-Free Marriage there.
I'm great. I'm actually very hyper this morning.
I heard a quote, Amy, that I thought fit you very well. They may call me Coach, but I travel first class.
Ha ha.
Or I may be Coach, but I'm really first class or something like that.
I may be a coach.
You may be Coach, but you travel first class. I don't know, something like that. I should have probably written it down if I wanted to quote it, but anyway. I can check that off the list of
All right,
notes.
you got that down. Okay. Said the funny quote.
Which
no one got it. Okay.
made it even funnier because I just realized that our intro says, sit back and learn. I don't know how much we're teaching, but anyway.
I don't know. I think we are, especially, I think, with this podcast interview that we did this week.
Happy Quattro of July.
Quattro of July. Yes, look, I even have I'll clean off my lipstick here. My USA, if you can see that.
If you're on the YouTubes, you can see.
Yeah, my USA mug, my red, white, and blue.
Fancy.
I did my floral decorations, as I always try to with every holiday. Y'all make fun of me.
I turned on the LEDs on the outside of the house.
Yes,
red, white, and blue.
we're all ready.
We're so festive. Did not go get the fireworks this year.
And we did not spray paint our
yard
lawn like I wanted you to.
You can spray paint like stars and stripes on your yard. P.S. If you do that, it's going to be there till about September.
Yeah, you did that. Yeah, you could have. Yeah, you should have done it like more so that for what was it, Memorial Day?
Oh, then we just held on the whole time. Yeah.
And then like I don't know if other people do this, but my summer decorations are all themed red, white, and blue from Memorial Day all the way to Labor Day. Red, white, and blue.
Just keeps it easy.
It does.
It
is a season, and I don't even have a lot of decorations.
That's above my pay grade, people, so I can't really.
I mean, I think my decorations for 4th of July consist of a lot of towels, hand towels.
A lot of hand towels.
It's like, here you go. Here, you know what? You know it's 4th of July. Up, we got the red, white, and blue towel. Yes.
That's the thing is now she's not drinking, so she has all this free time to come up with more crafter stuff.
I kind of did that before, but yes, now I'm actually more purposeful with it.
Oh, I know. I want my house decoration to be more purposeful.
I know.
Well, how was your week there, Coach Amy?
You know what? Well, the week started off not so great because I had a little calamity when I was trying to set up for a Zoom call, and the lighting. What is that? Is that a light box that we have this?
Softbox.
The softbox tumbled onto my my monitor, and the monitor fell. For you. And I thought for a brief moment that it was fine because the screen was dark, and I'm like,
I thought it was perfectly okay because it was black.
Oh, it's black. It's okay. And then when it came on, it had the big old like crack thing, and then I'm so ridiculous. I'm sitting there like rubbing on it. If you can see me, I'm pretending I'm rubbing on a monitor in front of me.
You think maybe I can fix it.
If I just maybe push that together. No. It was very sad. I was so upset. And you, like you always are, you don't get upset. You're like, it's an accident. I'm beating myself up going, oh my gosh, why?
I had a $25 Best Buy gift card, which
and so
for the monitor, but
you were super sweet, and we went and got me a new one because I kind of need it.
Should have made you use that other one. I know, because I plug it in, and I'm like, oh,
well, you don't have
good news. Now you have your 27-inch monitor back that can show your nightmare of a desktop.
I know. That is a goal by the end of July. I'm not going to say like on a week or something, but I'm going to set a daily goal of working like 10 minutes each day to do some organization on my files.
On your desktop.
On my desktop.
Virtual desktop, as it were.
Yes. It's it does. It actually makes my heart kind of hurt a little bit.
And then she's always like, I can't find this file. I'm like, no kidding. I can't find anything on your computer either.
Yeah, but you know what? Then I'm going to organize it, and I'm still not going to be able to file. And then I'll be on these nice, neat files, but I'll still never be able to find it.
Search. That's all I can say.
But then I can't remember what I called it and all of those things. But so thank heavens, like Google Docs, I'm in that. I'm actually starting to organize all of that. It helps
because there's
a
no
lot.
virtual desktop for Google Docs. So
Yeah.
well, we need to get to our interview
okay.
with
Yes.
Kat Pope, Amy. But before we do, what is your drink of the week, Amy?
Oh, are we not going to talk about that C?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, because we were just talking about signs of liver disorders or liver disease. And you had that telltale sign of your abdomen.
abdomen.
You were having the pain, right?
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of stomach issues, but I was like, well, that's...
My new term, alcohol-induced IBS. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think that's... Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing.
I was never given that title, but it really is the thing.
I had for quite some time, I had bruises on both of my legs, and I just attributed that to being
Clumsy.
a klutz. I mean, I run, and it is, I mean, the
You are
bruises
klutz.
were,
That is a fact.
but it definitely is a sign of your liver not working correctly. I can't remember exactly, but it's basically you don't, your blood doesn't clot as well as it should. So you can actually, if you get a cut, you can bleed more. If you get a if you hit, like bump into something, it might be just something that's a small bump, but it will bruise even larger. And I thought for a long time that this was because of an acne medication I was on. Again, back to the acne medication, because you thought your IBS was because of acne medication. And so I was just kind of like, oh, well, that's what that is. And they periodically would test my liver, but I hadn't had it tested in a really long time because I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. And I didn't really it just didn't even register that could be a real, like a problem, like a serious problem.
Surely that can't.
Well, it just didn't even if it is I didn't recognize it as being a true problem. And lo and behold, I quit drinking, and within, I don't know, like 3 months, that bruising was all gone. And it was just kind of crazy because and the reason this came up is I was in one of the Facebook groups, and a young gal, 26 years old, was listing out all of these different symptoms and things that she was dealing with. And she put a picture of her legs, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so reminiscent of what my legs looked like. So anyways, so if you have bruising, look at it and
Even
take
if you are
it.
klutz.
Well, yeah, exactly. Take a look at it, because that is a sign that your liver is not working correctly.
There you go.
So there you go. That's all I have on that.
There you go. Or check WebMD just to be sure. Or
Yeah.
contact
I'm
your
not
physician.
a doctor, so please just go and talk to your doctor about it.
Yes.
And be honest with your doctor, and be honest with yourself,
Amy, I'm only having 2 drinks a day.
because you only have one body,
One life to live.
one life to live, and you have one vessel that you're in.
one vessel.
One vessel. Okay.
Treat my body like a temple. You treat yours like a temple.
So now we're going to move on to the drink of the week. Matt, what's your drink of the week? This is so exciting.
Not when you drive, is not. Amy, this week I found...
What did I take away from you? You have told me time again, nope, this isn't my show. This is your show.
I know, but you also don't subtly transition. You're like, okay, now to number 2. This isn't a PowerPoint. It's a podcast. Okay, so I was at the grocery store, as one does, and I'm always looking for new...
As one does.
I'm always looking for new
one
beers.
does.
It's just the bottom of the can says ED. That's interesting. And I ran across Old Miluakee non-alcoholic beer. America's non-alcoholic near beer.
How many calories is it?
I have no idea.
Does it say?
Probably not. well, most NA beers aren't terribly high. They're all sub 100 for sure.
Old Mill.
So I'm like, my first thought was like,
I think that was probably one of the worst beers I ever had.
that was actually the first,
and probably
beer I
one of
ever
the
had.
first beers
Yeah.
I ever had.
And I'm like, well, Old Mill is not really a go-to beer, period, at all. But I'm like, as the kids say, I did it for the gram, Amy. I look at all these beers and I review all these beers. I'm like, I can't not. Plus, it was $11.99 a case. To put that in perspective, some of these 6-packs cost as much as $16 for a 6-pack. Not all of them, but
a lot.
But I'm like, all right, it's $12 for a case. I've got to at least try it and report back to you, the people.
Because you're clamoring over this.
Yes. So, and little, if you need any, I'm probably gonna have some extra because it's gonna take me a while to get through a case of Old Mill NA beer.
I'll probably start tasting tinny by the time you get through it. But
it may actually be beer by the time
maybe you should
I
write
get
that
to
off as an expense for the
podcast.
for the podcast. It's a podcast expense.
But and speaking of beers, I found an Instagram page called Buzz Free Beers, BUZZ, Buzz Free Beers, and all he does is review NA beers. And
Cool.
he actually had reviewed the Old Mill NA.
What did he say?
I think the consensus is it's Old Mill. So I let our son try it. He was 21, and he goes, "Kind of tastes like water." I'm like, "Well, it's kind of what Old Mill tastes like too." So
There you go.
all right, Amy, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking coffee.
Okay, but play along.
For this week, Topo Chico Twist of Lime. I love it. I don't know where to put this.
That's fine.
I absolutely love it. I like limey drinks. So when I make it, I put more lime in it in my glass.
And pay attention, kids, because Topo Chico does make an alcoholic drink. So
Yes. I didn't know that. I'm glad that you said that. Because I would be one of those people who would grab something and be like, "Oh, this tastes great." Because I remember reading that on a blog post too. Somebody's mom who had quit drinking or something, or didn't drink a lot. All of a sudden,
I just have a couple of these.
I found these seltzers. Oh, this
I
is
just have a couple
so
before
good.
bed, and it helps me sleep.
Yeah,
Mom, 'cause you're drunk.
I was like, "Oh no, Mom." So there you go. Okay.
All right, we need to move along.
How are you going to make this a seamless transition, Matt? Since
Are we going to do your 4 tips here, or do we want to move on?
Oh, I thought we were going to do that at the end.
That'll be fine.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, let's get to our interview, Amy, with Kat Pope. What do you have to say about Kat?
Okay. Hold on.
And while Amy's looking up her notes, I'll preface this that we had a little
Shuffle my
technical
notes.
difficulty. So,
Oh, yeah. Please bear with us because this is a really good interview. But Kat was having some technical
Internet
difficulties.
issues. Yeah. So I'll do the best I can to splice it together.
So he's going to
but-
splice it together. But this is a really interesting interview. I'm just going to give a little bit about Kat. Katharine Pope. She is the founder of Forensics Found. Kat's experience include working as a crime scene specialist for the Austin Police Department. She was also a WWII casualty, an analyst for the Department of Defense, Missing and POW Personnel Office, and a forensic investigator in Texas, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Delaware, in all of their medical examiners' offices. She now works for a federal agency on missing and unidentified persons of crisis. And she has been happily alcohol-free since February of 2021. She lives with her husband and 2 kids in Salisbury, Maryland. She is the daughter of a firefighter and an ER nurse. And she is a sister of a U.S. Army veteran. She believes that public service is a calling. I want to help our fields become more accessible for students and professionals so that we can do the job to the best of our ability. So now we will go to our interview with Kat Pope. Well, welcome back to the Alcohol-Free Marriage Podcast. And today we have Katharine Pope, and she is the founder of Forensics Found, and she's also a This Naked Mind certified coach. And so very excited to have you on today. And you are also were in our graduating class of last fall. So
I can't believe it's almost been a year.
I know
It's insane.
it's been crazy. And Kat is down in Austin, Texas right now, but I think you reside in Maryland.
I do. Yep.
Great. And so why don't we go ahead and get this started and just tell us a little bit about, what you, a little bit about you, where you're from, family, and all that kind of stuff. And maybe even throw in, what do you like to do for fun?
What's that? I have 2 little kids. So thanks so much for having me on here, you guys. Your podcast is awesome, and I love it so much. My husband totally thinks that my really looking into alcohol-free lifestyle, not so much saved our marriage. We weren't in trouble or anything like that, but it's definitely kind of taken us to another level. And our relationship is 10 times better than it ever was. And we've been together since we met the very first Wednesday of college. So he was 17 and I was 18 years old, and we just celebrated 22 years together. We've been married for 13.
Wow.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
We've now known each other longer and been together longer than we were not. So it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got 2 little ones. We kind of, like I said, we met in college out in Colorado. I'm originally from Maryland. And he's from here, Austin, Texas. And we, went together down to graduate school here in Texas. And then he got into a PhD out in New York City at Columbia. So we moved up there. And that's where my daughter was born. And then he got a job on the eastern shore of Maryland. So we're very close to the beach. And we moved down there. So he's a professor at the university there. And I am a forensic investigator. So I work at medical examiners' offices, have worked at them for about 15 years. And luckily, unluckily, death happens all over the country. So it was really easy for me to kind of get up and move, and follow him wherever he ended up. So
You're kind of like CSI Miami over there, right?
Totally like that. Exactly. Let me get my sunglasses.
And you solve everything in 60 minutes.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. So for fun, I'm still working on that one. My kids are 10 and 8. So we really enjoy going to the beach. We go to the beach a lot. And I just love watching them grow up. Going alcohol free has actually really changed the way I parent and the way I can show up for my kids. They used to annoy me. They used to oh gosh, you're doing that thing and I have to do this thing for you and I have to drive you there and blah, blah, blah. Obviously I love them more than anything in the world, but now that I'm alcohol free, those things I get to do. And I really enjoy all the tedious motherhood things that I get to do with them. And just watching them experience things now that I'm alcohol free too, it's just it's such a joy to be around my children.
That's awesome. I'm envious that you made that choice at the age you did. I wish I would have been wise enough to have made that decision at an earlier time. So I think that's wonderful. Congratulations
Thanks.
on that.
And Kat, before we get too deep, does your husband still drink or did he never drink?
He drinks. Yeah. One of the things I learned when I stopped drinking was that he was drinking a lot because I was the pusher.
Familiar.
So I did ask in the beginning days, I asked him not to have alcohol in the house for a little while, and he was fine with that. He's very supportive. But now that I'm completely free and have no problem being around it, which happened relatively quickly, being comfortable being around drinkers and alcohol, he's brought it back in the house, and he'll have a whiskey every now and again, but he's not a binge drinker. He's, not a problem drinker. I'm using air quotes if people are just listening, which drives me nuts. I'm like, how can you do that, man? It's so unfair.
I'm in awe of that. I know I've said that before. It's always
magic.
how do you do that?
Can you just put it down and don't keep drinking it? How does that even work?
Yeah, he'll have 2 beers and not have another one until, days later. But he's since we've been together so long, a lot of stuff went unsaid. You know, you just kind of get into a routine and feel so comfortable with people. Sometimes you don't talk like you should. And the amount of communication we now have, he's just very aware and now communicative with me about emotions that he has, or insights that he has, that he notices when I'm like in a bad mood, or if he's in a bad mood, he can tell me about that stuff. And that, again, is all thanks to just cutting out booze. I mean, we had gotten into the parenting crunch and the job crunch and, you know, the house crunch for such an extended period of time that we both just lost kind of that zhuzh, that feeling, that electricity, and the ability to kind of communicate with words, not just like assuming people, you know, he's got the kids or he's got this. We'd lost all that. And it wasn't like I said, it wasn't a bad thing. We weren't going down some horrible journey, but now that the alcohol has been removed, all that stuff is coming back, and it's like exciting again. We have such a reinvigorated life together.
That's so great. I think that's awesome, because I know there's a worry that a lot of people have. Like, oh my gosh.
I did.
Yeah. I mean, if I quit drinking,
That's our thing.
What-
That's what we do.
you know,
Yeah.
that was like for us, it was our hobby.
Yep.
And
100%. And we had started like in college together, you know, so we were going to concerts out in Colorado, you know, drinking at parties, went to graduate school, kept drinking. And, you know, same when we had kids. Like, I'll never forget when my son was born, he brought my favorite bottle of gin to the hospital. So as soon as I pushed that kiddo out, I could take some shots.
Girl, you're a gin drinker. You're after my own heart. Yeah. My dad warned me to the dangers of gin, and I didn't listen. But. So speaking of college and your beginning drinking, take us back to your history of drinking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the child of a DC fireman, paramedic, and ER nurse. So like public service has always been in my blood. And my family's always, our experience is just, you know, other people first, our community first. And so, and just like kind of a lot of people our age, my parents didn't really teach me how to communicate my feelings and talk about when I was sad or lonely or, you know, all those icky things. Yuck. Don't talk about those. Just push them off and pretend to be happy and keep working. That'll show your worth. And so, you know, I always knew from a young age I would be doing a job like that. And actually, my dad took me. I would go to my dad's work. You know, if I had a day off of school, I went down to DC and would hang out in the firehouse. And I went to the hospital one day just to hang out and watch the party. And this man got wheeled in, and he had tried to commit suicide by ingesting some seed. And the hospital staff had a stack of papers that were like 2 feet tall. And he had done all this research on how to kill himself. And I was like, what? You know, I'm 14 years old. What a waste of time. Like, he could have spent all that time researching the cure for cancer, or like, you know, how to feed the poor. But instead he was, you know, he was trying to end his life. And I was just so curious from that moment on about kind of the abnormal. And so that kind of got me into, I used to read a lot of, you know, Kathy Reich's books and those other, Patricia Cornwell, I was really into in high school. And I knew I wanted to go into the field of forensics. So, you know, I drank in high school a little bit. I drank in college, you know, like a college kid does, unfortunately. I drank in graduate school. And then I think like I didn't really start questioning my alcohol use until we had moved to New York City, and I didn't really know anybody. I had an amazing postgraduate job in Washington, D.C. I was working for the Department of Defense, researching. I was a casualty analyst. So I was researching the last known whereabouts of missing and killed in action World War II service personnel. So there's actually like 88,000 service personnel still missing. Their bodies are still unknown, the locations. So they're still technically listed as missing in action from World War II.
Wow.
So they have a whole, yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And they have a whole team of people that work on kind of recreating the last circumstances of their loss. And it's the same for Vietnam, the Korean War as well. And they actually can then deploy anthropologists into the field and archaeologists to recover the remains if they find enough information about where they might be. So they do amazing work. It was one of the coolest jobs I have had. But my husband and I were engaged, and he had gotten into Columbia, and I left that job. I had it for 1 year. I moved up to New York, and I didn't have a job. And I was kind of like, it was after graduate school. I really knew what I wanted to do. I was taking off on my career. And I think that was, it was a hard time for me to be with my husband. I wanted to be with my husband, but I also wanted to be doing this work. And so I remember that was when kind of the blackout started. I would drink, I have celiac disease, so I can't eat or drink wheat like pizza or beer, which is kind of a bummer, hence the gin drinking. But so we would go to the bar with, people we had met, and I wanted to like be social. So they're watching football over 4 hours, drinking light beer, and I'm drinking gin and tonics. Well, I started blacking out,
Wow.
And I knew I didn't like it. I knew that, being in a big city, I remember once we went to bottomless mimosa brunches. One time we went, my husband had to stick me in a cab, and I passed out on the drive home in the cab, and I woke up, and the cab driver had gotten out of the taxi and was just like waiting for me to wake up. And I was like, after a couple of days when I started to feel better, I was like, I don't like that. But things kind of stabilized. I got a job at the medical examiner's office there in New York City, working on a training program, and started to get my foot in the, back in the door. And that's when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. So I think luckily, that kind of interrupted that cycle that I started to get into. I had my daughter. You're pregnant. You're not supposed to drink when you're pregnant. So I didn't drink then. And I didn't drink, I was nursing her for almost a year, busy with a little kid. And then I got pregnant with my son, and we had moved to Maryland at that point. And, then I started drinking again, and it started to kind of creep into my life. And it wasn't really until, we had gotten stabilized, and I got my job with the medical examiner, the last medical examiner I worked for, which required us to have a cell phone, and we had a take-home truck, and work kind of became my everything. And it started to be, we would work 40 hours a week in the office, and then we'd be on call overnight or on the weekends. And I started working, we'd have to rotate holidays. So I'd be off handling drug overdoses on Christmas, or, I'd get a call at midnight after I'd, slept for 2 hours and been out all night, and have to go back in the office in the morning and work my normal 8-hour shift. So I started to have major sleep issues, which kind of steamrolled into burnout. And this was the time that I really started, my drinking started ramping up, come home, work. I knew I'd be on call at midnight.
Okay, we had a little technical glitch. So if you hear a little blip in the audio or the video, that is why. Love Zoom, love the internet. So, Kat, when we last left you, 30 seconds.
You can splice in like a commercial or something, right, whoever your sponsor is.
You were talking about the weekends and having to work, being on call and really diving into your work. Take us from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it got a little dicey for me. Was, I would calculate back, like, okay, I have to, if a call comes in tonight at midnight when I start my call, if I've had 2 glasses of wine right when I walk in the door at 5 p.m., I'll be fine to take that call. But who has 2 glasses of wine when you're really starting to? 2 glasses of wine was fine for me for a little while, but then it started to be 3 glasses of wine. And I would try my hardest not to, even drink at all on those call nights, because I had to drive a work truck to the scene. But as time went on, it was hard, and those lines got blurry, and it was harder for me to say, like, it at the very end of my drinking career, it was hard for me to go more than one day without a bottle of wine or gin and tonics or, whatever it was. And it was the worst. I mean, I would spend all of my time thinking about booze and drinking. I'd wake up in the morning, my heart was racing, I had a terrible headache. That was after waking up at 3 a.m., just like we all did, like with the rush of adrenaline and the cotton mouth, trying to go back to sleep because I knew I needed more sleep, but couldn't. Waking up in the morning, chastising myself again, promising myself I wasn't going to do that again. And then by 4 p.m., I'm like, okay, well, the gin and tonics didn't work. What am I getting tonight? What could be better? And so, and then I tie one on again the next day. So it's like all of my time was spent doing that. And it just, that wasn't working for me. So that went on for like 2 years, 3 years, until I told Annie the story, actually, Annie Grace. I bought her book probably a year before I ever cracked it open. And I don't know if you did this in high school, but I covered it with a brown paper bag, grocery bag. So no one would know what the book was. And it sat there on my desk, and I like decorated the cover just like I did in high school. And, like nobody was going to know that I had a problem. God forbid people think that I was some drunk, some alcoholic that couldn't handle this job, because I knew what I was getting into when I signed up for this career. I knew, I knew I was going to be seeing dead bodies and handling, suicides and homicides and drug overdoses and car accidents. And, I knew that's what I signed up for. And that's what people kept saying. And that was the kind of community that I was involved in, was this, like, you put up this big shell and you think everything's fine. And honestly, when I really dig deep, those cases were tough, and the casework and the handling of those things were hard. But that wasn't what really got me. I think what really got me was when you roped in the lack of sleep and the, limiting the time that I spent with my kids and my family. I had no tools for that. I had no tools to decompress after a tough day. I had no tools to like keep an exercise routine and a meditation routine and like a face washing routine and like a, hydration routine. And if you're out at 3 a.m. on a death call, nothing else is open but the gas station. So you better believe I'm going in there and eat some trash food, a bag of Doritos and a soda or a coffee to keep me moving. And all of that stuff just set me up for failure. And, it was taking the alcohol out of the equation. When I finally did remove it, people call it their one big domino that fell. It truly was the case for me. Once I got rid of that junk, that toxic crap, I was really able to kind of realize, like, oh, there's all these other things that I really need to get my business in order, and that I can now take control of and really like lead this really positive, powerful life where I still get to do the job that I love more than anything, but I also get to like laugh with my kids and, spend time with my husband and exercise every day like I want to, and wash my face before I go to bed.
Yeah. It's those little things too. I mean, it's just, it all adds up over time and it multiplies.
And I think it's interesting, your story about buying the book a year and then not even opening it. I think it just speaks volumes to everybody's path. A lot of people's story of, I didn't drink, and didn't even think about it, then one day quit. It's like baby steps and like, oh, I'm thinking about it. And clearly you thought about it because you bought the book, but then you covered it because of shame. And then you didn't open it because, well, the gin and tonic sound like a better idea than reading a book about not drinking those, right? So that's interesting. And is that career, you mentioned like the group, the people and the environment, is that career path, is there more drinking in that field because of the things that you're talking about, of the weird hours and the just go and the things you see and the things you do? Does that increase the drinking in that career area?
It was always something we did. We called it team building, and we'd head on over to the bar after work and we'd team build, which research shows that if you need to decompress from a stress and experience, in order to combat PTSD, sharing vulnerably is one of the best things you can do. And for first responders and veterans, there's documented research where getting together with people who are like-minded and have shared those experiences, talking about the cases is like one of the best things that you can do. Do you know what we were not doing at those team building exercises? Was talking about work. You know, we may laugh about like, oh, Kat, you know, dropped the stretcher again right in front of the family, or like, you know, oh, it's hilarious. Did you see that guy's wallpaper? But we weren't really getting down to the nitty gritty about like, oh, dang, we had 2, you know, opioid overdoses today, or like, I can't believe that guy shot himself right in front of his girlfriend. Like, that's the stuff that we really needed to be spending some time on, like speaking about how that's stressful and sad. And it's a normal human response to be sad about that stuff. Yeah. And I don't think I would have dwelled on it as long. You know, the other problem with death investigation, so medical examiner and coroner's offices, there's about 3,000 of them in the United States. It's a very kind of weird piecemeal criminal justice agency. So we're not law enforcement. We don't respond out to the scene first. And we're not paramedics, you know, we're not firefighters, we're not trying to save anybody. We kind of come in at the end to pick up all the pieces, and we investigate, you know, most of the time we're investigating deaths that are not natural, right? So homicide, suicide, accidents, which includes drug overdoses, but also car accidents. Anything suspicious that might look like, you know, like we weren't expecting this guy to die. He's only 40 years old, but he's dead at home, outside. What did I miss? And like anything undetermined. So anybody under the age of 18, if there's a public health crisis, guess who's getting called in? So I actually, I worked at my local medical examiner's office until August of 2019. When I was hired on, and this is kind of a long story, but I actually transitioned out of a scene investigator position, and I now work for a federal agency virtually, you know, like from home. I work 9 to 5 from my house, and it's for a federal agency that assists with missing and unidentified persons investigations. So I got out of the scene investigation when things were pretty bad. I got diagnosed with PTSD. You know, I needed to stop drinking. I needed some more stability in my life. I had huge burnout from a toxic work environment. And then COVID happened in February, March. So I thought when I changed jobs that all of my drinking problems and all of my burnout would just dissipate, that it was like, I didn't need to do any work. It would just stop and I'd be fine. But then COVID happened and I had all this survivor's guilt because all of my friends were now back out, like working tenfold of the cases that they were handling before. And not so much, you know, a lot of those guys, the death investigators were not going to those scenes, but they were handling a lot of calls. We interact with the funeral homes a lot and families. But their caseload shot through the roof because you've got people who can't go and check on grandma. Well, now grandma's in her house for 10 days, deceased, and she's got no air conditioning on. So now that becomes a medical examiner's case because we can't, you know, we're not sure exactly what happened to her. So I had huge survivor's guilt at that point, and I was still drinking, you know, so I had taken away the flame from the fire of the lack of sleep and the unstable work environment and the underfunding and the you know, staffing, but I was still really drinking. So that was what really made me realize, like, I need to actually do something here and actually build a toolbox for myself to kind of combat other feelings of blame and shame and guilt and just sadness. Like, all human beings, death investigators aren't the only people who feel sad. That's when I finally realized, like, I was going to take another step, and I signed up for the live alcohol experiment with This Naked Mind. It was actually in July 2020 that I did my first alcohol experiment, which is coming up on 2 years ago.
That's cool.
And so it was just learning that the information that they provide you day after day in small, doable bite sizes just was exactly what I needed. And I didn't, I had some alcohol days, drinking days that month, but I cut them down, and then I did 3 more live alcohol experiments over the next year. And I kind of really every time I did one, I kind of learned more about myself and about alcohol, and different things resonated with me. And when I really started doing the work and journaling and started thinking about my career and my life, what I wanted to do in my life, and how I really felt powerless at that point, that's when I was like, okay, this is for me, and I'm going to stick with it.
Awesome. What is in your toolbox? Tell us about.
Man. Well, the sleeping thing was the biggest one. So sleep is my number one priority. My kids even know that around 8 p.m. Mama's getting ready to go.
Amen, sister.
Yep, that's
Amen.
us.
Sorry. And my husband's he's a late night guy, and he likes to sleep in too. But so one of the best things that's come out of this is I wake up at 5 a.m. and I am gold. The best things I can do in the world are from 5 to 8 in the morning. So that's number one, and that's my goal for when I work with other responders in the field, is trying to find little changes they can make if they don't necessarily have a structured schedule, like they work nights, or they're like me and they had this on-call experience where you're kind of just you may not sleep tonight. Building the sleep into their schedule so that when they do come home, they're not doing anything else.
Yeah.
And then eating and drinking is a big one. So, I quickly decided I'm not going to ever eat anything that is sold at a gas station again. I have my requirement for water every day. I started limiting my caffeine a little bit more. I can't completely cut it out. I love coffee too much, but I did limit it. I cut that down. I exercise. So I do a Friday yoga every week I found a police officer who was offering first responder yoga. And it was kind of just a coinky dink that we found each other. And it's one of those kismet things in the universe. He's also sober, which was just really cool. And we met in August, right when I launched my business and was certified. It was his first responder yoga. And I'd gone in there with my little pamphlets and my business cards, and I'm so excited. But so he's my new bestie.
I have a quick question.
And then,
and it's sort of a sidetrack question. I apologize, but the tools that you're using, I'm sure you share with your responder clients and when you coach. Is there a stigma of not drinking in that environment? So do you think that makes it even harder? I mean, you have all these tools, all these things, but do you think that makes it even more difficult?
So the last tool that I really nail on the head, which comes with the most pushback, is being vulnerable and talking about this crap that we go through. And I make that a non-negotiable. If you want to work with me, you're going to have to talk to me. And it's hard for them. It was hard for me. And I have a coach that I speak to. I spoke to her 2 days ago about how I was feeling icky about talking about my business to people I work with and friends that I have that are also forensic anthropologists who I know could benefit hugely by just being more mindful. I mean, I'm not telling you got to quit drinking. What I want you to do is just talk to me, talk about what you are feeling. Try to, think about your worry and what the purpose is of being anxious. There isn't one. Let's turn that anxiety into an excitement and a hope for what's going to come next. And when you're in a job that is so forgotten, we call ourselves the forgotten ones. We're the last responders. We start to de-appreciate ourselves. I think, and that's very common with when I start to open up and I've started having these conversations with people, they're just like floored. They open up to me like the floodgates, generally speaking. But there is definitely a stigma, and I still have to tackle that myself. I do feel awkward. You know what? I am not going to handle another suicide of a friend of mine, and I will not listen to more stories about, police officers shooting themselves or feeling badly. The media is giving them a hard time right now, and for some reasons, rightly so. Right? We need to have checks and balances with our law enforcement, but the public view of police right now is also hurting them, and we need them to do their best jobs. Right? We need them to show up for our community. Same with firefighters, same with funeral directors and teachers and social workers and death investigators. Like, we're going to have a really bad time if we don't support these people to do the best they can out of their job. So if it means, if I have to go out there and stand on my soapbox and talk about like being vulnerable to they call it smash the stigma. If I got to smash the stigma with a giant hammer and scream about it all day, I will, because I don't want to wait till it's so bad that they're contemplating suicide or committing suicide. I want to start at the beginning. And for me, that was removing alcohol.
Yeah, that's awesome, because it is so hard to watch people who are in pain, and we all hold on to it. But when you're looking at first responders and what they're going into day after day, and I can't even imagine doing what you did, because it breaks my heart when I think of somebody who's lost somebody. And my thought always goes to, when you hear somebody who has committed suicide, my thought goes to that mom, their mother. Yeah. That's the first thing I think of, and how they're dealing with it. And then, because you just said you're forgotten, because no one thinks about what it is like to go to those scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard work, but it's very rewarding. We talk to people on their worst day of their lives, and I think so. I was able to pick up a part-time job after some time away from it, so I do still handle death investigation, and I now am able to kind of come at it in this appreciative, respectful. I was starting to get at the point where like every drug overdose looks the same, and every child overlay case, which is when a child is found co-sleeping with a parent and they die, every child was starting to look the same, and I was really burned out. But now I'm able to kind of turn that around, and I think I do what you do, Amy. Like, I start to think like, and I'm able to remember. I don't think I completely lost it when I was really in the shit. But now I am able to like make sure that I focus on those positive things. I'm able to take a family through the worst day of their life, help them understand what's going to happen, what has to happen, to make sure we do an investigation, document any injuries, figure out what's going on, so that we know, so that you know, and then I'll talk to them about making funeral arrangements, give them my condolences, and it's still now like I've just grown to love the job even more now, thankfully.
That sounds like one of them, but what would have been the a big aha or something that unexpectedly has come of quitting alcohol?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if anybody, I've actually never talked about this before. I wonder if anybody else did it, but like on weekends, if I was off, I wasn't working, I would rush through my chores Sunday morning or Saturday morning, do them as quick as possible so I could just like drink and not have to worry about, like, I would make my kids lunches for Monday on Saturday just so I could just like numb out the rest of the day, and the rest of the weekend. So I love that I have a whole 2 days to just like do whatever I want. And the same with the mornings and the evenings now, just like having that extra time to either to myself or with my kids, or just to like sit quietly. I have never, since the last 2 years, like lost track of time. Like we go out and play. My kid loves to play pickleball. So adorable. He's like an old man.
All right. This is like the third or fourth time we've talked
In an
about
interview about pickleball. Everybody's talking about pickleball.
All right. We're in. When we all get together,
I gotta play. It's so
we're all
fun.
gonna be playing pickleball.
The alcohol-free pickleball
league.
Like we'll play for like hours, and I'll lose track of time, and that's just like such a gift to give to that kid and to myself. Yeah. Alcohol-free pickleball. We can be sponsored by like Soleil, the soda that I love.
What do your what does your family and your husband, how do they feel about you not drinking now?
Well, he's infatuated with it. It's more of like kind of a long story, but because I work for a federal agency, 2021 and 2022 were really rough, and we all got laid off, which would have sent me down a huge spiral. And my father-in-law is very sick. Things happen, life happens. And he compliments me now on how impressed he is with my ability to find the gift in things that happen to us. And I think, like I said, we were all very happy, but me listening to him appreciate me, it's really nice to hear.
All right, one more technical glitch, and Kat moved, so now we have like a new background. I really need some more commercials, I think, if we're going to keep this going, Kat. So we're talking about your changes and what others were thinking of you and your father-in-law and your kids. So continue with that.
Yeah, since I stopped drinking alcohol during COVID, I was kind of shielded from a lot of social events. So, obviously my husband knew. We had a bubble family during COVID who was very supportive. They've actually basically stopped drinking, very, very supportive. Our other neighbors and people we have around town, not so much. Some of them would say things that in the beginning were rough, like, don't you think that's a little extreme? Or, what are you trying to do that for? And those were the people that I learned that were questioning their own alcohol use, Yeah. But so recently we were allowed to start traveling again for work. And so I've been kind of slowly experiencing, meeting up with coworkers who are traditionally very heavy alcohol users, and people that I respect highly. So forensic anthropology is what my degree is in. And it's a very small field. We've got 100 people throughout the country who has PhDs and master's degrees practicing at medical examiners' offices. And it's a hard field to get into. And, it's also very cliquey. And I consider myself a pretty outgoing person. So I have a lot of friends in the field, and I was a little nervous to kind of reintroduce myself when we all started meeting together again. And it was fine. It was fine. You build this thing up in your head that you think everything's going to be weird. And, some people were like, took a minute, asked some questions, but these are my friends. These are my colleagues. These people love me. And all of that fear was coming from inside of me.
So the fear was really inside, and is what you're finding. Yeah,
100%. And all of this, I've learned is all in your head. Everything that you want, everything you don't want, it's all under your control. And I think that it takes talking about it or learning it or doing it to really finally understand that. And just having these experiences now, I don't have any idea if this recorded, but while I was on Fremont Street, like dancing up in Las Vegas, my coworker tried to hand me one of his drinks. He said, "Taste this." And I said, "Oh, no, thank you. I'm not drinking alcohol." And he goes, "Really? I thought you were drunk all night."
That is so awesome. I love that.
I love that. You know what? And we've had similar experience where we've gone and done stuff. We're just weird. We've just discovered that we're just weirdos.
Crazy. Yeah.
So when you're in Vegas and you're not drinking, or at home and not drinking, what's as we do on this podcast, what, the drink of the week, what is your alcohol-free favorite drink to go to?
Oh man, my husband and my bubble family and I will buy a case of Lagunitas refreshers.
Yep.
It's like a hop water, and we'll just sit out, have a fire or chit chat for the night and drink a couple of those. I can only have 3 of them or I get a headache. But they're delightful. Yeah, those are my favorite.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here. We have given a video audio editing challenge to Matt.
This one I think is getting easier.
But that's okay. He can
I'll
do
persist.
it.
Let me see if I can come on and at least say goodbye.
Yeah, no, this has been so great. Thank you so much. Your story, again, I know that it's going to continue to touch and help other people. Can you tell us, just give us your website, and so we can direct people to you?
Yeah, my website is forensicsfound.com. My Instagram is responders last call. And I'm actually getting ready to launch a little program called the Burnout Protocol that takes people through this toolbox that I've made and kind of gets people ready for the next step and kind of getting curious about how they can get curious about their own habit use and how to lead a more fulfilling life, more purposeful life. Yeah, as a responder.
So cool. I love what you're doing in that niche. It's, you have to be in that niche to be able to help that. I don't think Amy doesn't have the background to be able to identify all the extra things. I could sit here and talk to you forever, but I don't have that much time to edit all that. So
thank you.
I'm sure my internet will go out again anyway. So
well, enjoy the rest of your visit with your family and on your vacation. And thank you again so much for being on with us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Matt, Amy, and Kat. That was a wonderful interview. I love her topic. I think it's I could have talked to her forever. That's such an interesting.
Oh yeah.
Niche that she's serving.
Yes. It's very powerful work that she's doing.
She is. And
she is quite an amazing coach and person. And it has been so much fun to get to know her better. So go and check her out. We will have her business webpage and everything will be in the show notes. So, and also if you are in the live alcohol experiment, she is one of the coaches this month in July. So now we're going to talk about, since we're in this 4th of July weekend, we're in the summer is full on
barbecues,
all the barbecues, all of that kind of
barbecues,
stuff.
boating, and some other people.
A topic came up of FOMO,
which I'm familiar with, fear of missing out. But what is JOMO, Amy?
Joy of missing out. So you have to kind of reframe it. So,
how do I do that, Amy?
Well, FOMO, I don't know if, for fear of missing out, I'm just going to come over here. There's an article that we're going to link to as well.
I better write that down.
Well, it's in you have it in your notes. So yes, we're going to link to this article in Very Well Mind. And what is FOMO? FOMO is not just the sense there might be better things that you could be doing at this moment, but it is the feeling that you are missing out on something fundamentally important that others are experiencing right now. So when you go to a barbecue or an event or whatever it is, that fear of missing out is that, oh my gosh, look at them. They get to have fun. They get to drink. I don't get to drink. And that's...
They get to.
Yeah, they get to. That sort of mindset, ultimately will set you up to fail. Because if you go into something feeling like you are not getting to do something or you're missing out on something, then you're ultimately going to feel bad about the decision you made.
Well, and a lot of us aren't getting to drink. A lot of us need to drink, so we enjoy to drink. And
But the joy of missing out and how I reframed it, and this was after a little bit of time, after I started feeling so good, and we would go out or something or whatever we would do, or if it was just here, I'd make up either a mocktail or do one of the NA drinks or whatever like that. I had the joy of missing out on, I don't wake up now with anxiety. I don't wake up with feeling horrible. I don't go into the bathroom in the morning and look at bloodshot and yellow eyes and makeup that may or may not have come off my face. So I get to miss out on those things. And it is awesome. The joy of never having to worry about driving under the influence.
And the joy of realizing what time business was closed because you never went out at that time.
Yeah, that was kind of funny last night.
Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock.
Let's
go over to the drugstore. I'll go pick up my prescription.
Nope.
Let's
go to Aldi.
Let's go to Aldi.
My place is closed at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, just FYI. Didn't know that because usually we've been drinking.
Fortunately, the ice cream parlor
is open
until I think 10 or 11.
For all you ice cream junkies out there.
Go us.
All right, Amy, number 2 is one of your favorites. Keep a journal.
Yes, you want to keep a journal.
Write those thoughts down.
Write it all down when you're feeling like you're missing out on whatever.
And I'm not a big journaler, but I do understand and have benefited from when they say to just write. Like, I don't know what I'm writing. Why am I writing? Just literally just write whatever you're thinking, and you get places eventually.
Seek out real connection is the next one.
What's a real connection?
So a real connection is actually like you and I out on the porch, instead of focusing in on that drink or whatever it is, focusing in on you, the person, and what is going on with you specifically. Or if I go to see family and friends, like actually talking to them and finding out what's going on in your life. How are you feeling? Taking an interest in something or someone other than the something that is in your hand.
Let's get together and drink.
Yep.
And sit there and drink.
And then focus on gratitude is the last one. Just being grateful.
An attitude of gratitude.
I'll tell you what, and writing down, one of the things I've started to do, and I'm not consistent, but I am getting better at it, writing down 3 things every day at the end of the day, 3 things that you're grateful for, or 3 good things that happened in the day. Just even when you have a bad day. I mean, like my Monday, breaking that monitor, one of the good things that at the end of that day that I thought about is, wow, that really was a bummer. Big bummer, but it was a bummer. I couldn't say, well, okay, that really sucked. But you and how calm and how you usually never overreact about something like that. You're always like, that's okay.
Just
you know what?
It happens. Tech support for Coach Amy.
It's a thing. It happens. You did remind me later, let's not have any more of those things happen for a while, but always so...
I said 1 computer and 1 monitor per customer per year.
So nice. Just being calm in the situation and not like having it elevate up.
Take it to the next
level.
level.
I really do appreciate that. I love you.
Well, I love you too. And with that sappy note, kids, hope you enjoyed or are enjoying your 4th of July weekend. Or wait till next year and listen to this again. Then you can hear, 4th of July next year, I guess.
Yes.
Anyway. All right. Well, thank you, Kat, for being on the podcast.
Thank
Coach
you so
Amy
much
for showing up as always.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mr. Producer.
Yes. I'll wait till you listen to the whole thing before you thank me. All right, kids. Well, I'm Matt, along with Coach Amy, wishing you peace and love from the cornfields, and we are out.